Yeah. If you dare to follow the show for the last 12 and a half years, you know what that sound means. It means we have an offender on board with us. First time offender, sort of. Aaron Comas from Spin Doctors. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you, Dan?
Great. Thanks. I say first time, sort of, folks, because 9 years ago, Simon Fishburne interviewed Aaron backstage at the East Coast Bonzo Bash, kind of a quickie, fun thing. But now he gets his first grilling, if you will. I'm just kidding. First time we get to really dive deep, but we've got to start with this awesome new album. I can't say the name without giggling or smiling. Face Full of Cake. It's got a really cool, playful album cover. And I burned through listening to this a couple times already this morning. And, you know, I have one word for it, and it's fun. Like, the music's fun, and it's not really, you know, anything trailblazingly different from what you guys have done. But it sounds modern, yet it's got your guys' roots in, you know, the beginning of alternative rock music. Give us your perspective on this great album. There's the cover. I love the cover. Face Full of Cake. Where did the title come from? And tell us how this process was different from your previous processes. And it's the first new album in 12 years. I have a few comments and questions about that, but what's your perspective on this experience?
Well, thanks for saying what you said. I appreciate that. We definitely had a fun time making it, so we're happy with it. And but basically, the title, it's funny because as most records, at least most records that we've made, they always go through a series of titles before you pick the final one. Like we usually have like a title when we make the record, and that we think that's going to be it, and then it changes. So originally, when we made the record, we were going to call it Rock and Roll Heaven, which is one of the songs on the record.
Right.
After we lived with that, we're like, that sounds a little, I don't know, something about it, maybe like egotistical or something, you know, like we don't want to make it sound like we're Rock and Roll Heaven. Great song on the record, but so that went away. And then we were going to call it Boombox, another song on the record.
Great video, by the way. Got to watch for that, folks. Great video.
Thank you. But then I did a little research and realized there's like 1,000 other records called Boombox. So we got rid of that.
Really?
Then we were going to call it Gorilla, which is another song on the record. And we started to do artwork for Gorilla. And Chris, the singer, was kind of taking charge of the artwork. And he was working with this guy. And nobody liked anything that came back. It just wasn't happening. He was having a hard time. And then it was like we were kind of starting to question that title. And so I said, Chris, do me a favor, send me all the lyrics. I want to comb through the lyrics and maybe I'll find something. And when I was reading all the lyrics, Face Full of Cake is a line in one of the songs called Double Park.
Yes.
Great song and some of the best lyrics on the album. And it just sort of, it just hit me. I was like, this is pretty cool. It's kind of tongue in cheek. We've never been a band that's taken ourselves too seriously. And I've always been a fan of record titles that were like a line in a song. So sometimes you don't know why would they call it this. And if you actually take the time to listen to the record,
it's an Easter egg.
Then you hear that line and it's like, cool, you know? So I suggested it, and it was between Gorilla and Face Full of Cake for a long time. And we went with Face Full of Cake, and Chris did that album cover. Like just one afternoon, he just sort of threw this thing together, collage. He's very like old school, you know, tape this and cut out this, and it's great. So that's the story of the title. And as far as the making of the record, which you asked, you know, we were going through COVID, and you know, we obviously, like all of us, we hadn't done any gigs in a long time. And once things started to sort of calm down, you know, we started playing again. But during that time, I guess after about 6 months, when things were like a little bit better, we started writing songs. We started talking about like, you know what, it's been a while, let's make a new record. So we just like always, we've always sort of grouped off in different groups of us to write songs, you know. And so Eric and Chris always get together. Me and Chris always get together. The three of us get together. Me and Eric get together. Chris always brings songs in on his own. And so we did that for a while, and we came up with a bunch of songs we liked. And we made some just real shitty little demos in my studio. And then we, you know, most of it was just like on our phones. And finally, we decided we wanted to make the record. And now at this point, we had a new bass player, Jack Daly, who's playing with us now, and he's fantastic. And he's got a really great recording studio in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where he lives. So basically, we said, let's go out and make some really good demos. Even though I've never really believed in demos, it's sort of psychologically, it's a good way to take the pressure off. And we didn't really go into the studio with the thought that we're going to come out with a full record. The idea was like, let's make some pretty good, let's go record these songs, good quality, get some good arrangements together, and see where we're at. And it just really fell together really naturally. And like, we went in there and it was just coming out great. And, and about a week into it, we had like 12, 13 songs on the can. And we were like, this is it. This is the record. We don't need these aren't demos. This is a record, and that's pretty much how it happened.
That's cool. So was it sort of like that break, sort of you sandbagged unknowingly all this creative stuff, and then you guys finally get together and blah, it just kind of came out? Or did you have to find your way meeting back together into the creative process? Which was it?
Well, I mean, like you said before, it had been a while since we put out a studio record. I think the last, it'd been a long one. The last record was the blues record, If the River Was Whiskey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've just been gigging a lot. I mean, so the band's been together. We play together all the time. But I think, touching on what you said, like to get the creative spark together and have the inspiration and the vibe be right to actually get together and write a strong batch of new songs, those come in waves, and that hadn't really happened in a while. And we tried a few times, just without feeling any pressure. No, there's never been any pressure. I mean, the days of feeling pressure are long gone. You know what I mean? We're a career band now. You don't expect to have hits at this point. We're lucky to have had those. It's more about us going out and performing live, but making records is an important thing. So there's no pressure from a record company breathing down our neck. And we just had a good vibe going in the band, and it just felt, I think everybody was on the same page about let's write some songs together. And when the vibe is right, it's hard in a group because everybody can be in different spots, and it just, like the stars sort of aligned for the creative process. And so when we sort of naturally came up with a really strong batch of material, getting in the studio was just easy. And, everybody's great. Jack, our new bass player, is phenomenal, really easy to work with. There was sort of some fresh blood there. And so it was just very comfortable,
Yeah. How does that affect the rhythm section, even like the nucleus, you and Jack together, being that this is the first time you're recording and all of that?
Well, I mean, look, first of all, I mean, I've been playing with Mark White, the original bass player, who's obviously a very big part of the Spin Doctors sound from the beginning. We've been playing together for a long time. So whenever you're changing a member in a band like ours, it can be difficult. I mean, sometimes it can fall on its face and not work at all. We've had we've had different people coming out of the band throughout the years, and it was the original four for a long time. But there have been periods where people left and came and go, and it's always hard. Right. The thing about Jack is, me and Jack had played together a whole lot before he joined the Spin Doctors. We've done a lot of records together, and we've done a lot of touring together too. So we've played together a lot. We knew each other, so we kind of knew he'd be a good fit. And he's just great. He's just a real badass. He's a real professional, but he also has that sort of like band attitude, We share a lot of the same tastes. So, you never know how it's going to work, but it worked great. And he's 5 years on now, he's really been a nice addition. And again, not taking anything away from Mark, he's an incredible musician and contributed so much, but we're lucky that, when you do switch a member, that we're lucky to, I think, have gotten such a good fit with Jack. And it's different. I mean, he's a different player than Mark, and he came on board and he was like, well, what should I do? Do you want me to because, Mark did a lot of slapping and Mark has such a unique style, he got into some stuff that's very just Mark, very much Mark White,
Yeah. That funk edge of your guys' sound
that
came
funk thing, So Jack was sort of like, well, what do you, when making the record, he asked me, he pulled me aside. He's like, what's my gig? I mean, should I? And I just said, listen, Jack, you be Jack, Mark was Mark. We want you to be you. You're a great musician. He's done tons of records. He knows how to come into a situation and respect the sound of the band, but add his own thing, his own voice. And that's exactly what he did. And so it comes out sounding like you said. I mean, it does have a classic Spin Doctors sound, but there's something different. And I think that, you know, Jack's a big part of that sort of other thing, that element of the band as well, you know?
Yeah. You know, something I find so interesting, Aaron, about your guys' career as a band is the fact that, and not everyone can pull this off. Let's just admit this right away, is the fact that you mentioned your career band now, albums, the pressure's off, but you've created this following, you've created this sound over decades of playing together, personnel changes, but to take basically a 12-year break in some ways as far as new studio albums, yet still remain relevant, I think says a lot. It's not like you guys had to slingshot all the way to the back of the line again and reprove yourselves and build a following back up. You've stayed relevant with your fan base. And in those 12 years, like, let's face it, the 10-year-olds are now 22. You've kind of got like almost a next music fan generations, I think, are 10 to 12 years as opposed to 20 to 25. What do you attribute that to? Is it as simple as that your music is fun and it's relatable and no one has to overthink it and it's different enough each time, or is it some other magical pixie dust?
I think it's a couple things. I mean, for one, I think that a lot of young people have discovered music from the 90s in the last 12 years. So like, I think a lot of our staying power is just sort of that. It's just sort of the way, you know, people, this new generation of kids, even though they have their own generation or their own bands they listen to, they've discovered, you know, a lot of this stuff from our era. And I see a big shift in the people that come to our shows now. You know, it's a lot of younger people. For a while, it was like sort of, you know, you go through the different stages of your career. Obviously, in the 90s when we were huge, it's just all the young fans. Right. And then, you know, you have your sort of what happened to them and whatever. And then it's like 15, 20 years later, it's sort of a bunch of old people, you know, people like our age,
yeah,
you know, and then you're like, kind of like, well, where are we now? You know, but now right. It's like, it's really come back around. I think a lot of it is just people discovering it. And also the fact that our songs, I think that, you know, our music is pretty organic. You know, it's not, even though it's certainly, you hear it, it's like you hear Two Prince or Little Mix, you think of the 90s, but it wasn't overproduced. I think you can play it on the radio, you know, next to anything, and it still sounds fresh. And we do get such a. I mean, I would have never guessed we'd be getting so much airplay still with those songs. They've had,
yeah.
In other words, the staying power is surprising to us, and I think the combination of people rediscovering us, the staying power of the songs, that's it more than anything. Because I mean, even though we've been working, we play, you know, 50 shows a year. I don't think we've really done anything that's, I mean, we show up, you know, you're going to see a really great show with the Spin Doctors, but yeah, like we've done anything to promote ourselves. It's just sort of been a natural thing where it's lasted and sort of come back around. So finally we're like, we need to put out a new record, stay fresh. And that's what we're doing. And I think that, again, we're not like, oh, this is going to be a hit. I mean, we know what it is, but the good news is people have heard it, like yourself, and really enjoy it. It sounds fresh. We don't sound like a bunch of guys just trying to, you know, to sign it in. You know, I mean, we're lifers, every one of us, whether or not we're with a band, we're playing music. And I think at this point more than ever, we feel extremely appreciative to still have the group. And I honestly think that this is the best the band has sounded like since the very early days when we, you know, any band when they're young and fresh. Now I think we sound just as good, but different. There's a thing every band has when they're like 21, but I really feel like we're sounding better than ever. And honestly, you know, the type of musician I am, if I felt like we were phoning it in and the stuff wasn't on a high level, I wouldn't be doing it. There's no way. I don't care about the money. I'm like, I got to play good music. I got to be, you know, fulfilled creatively, you know.
Cool. I think you guys might be over delivering it with this, because it's seriously, there's so many fun, they're all fun songs, but even some of the titles, my favorite song on the album, if I may, is Still a Gorilla. I just love the changes in that. The tempo change, like, oh, what's going on? It picks back up. So cool.
You know why? It's a drummer wrote that one, so that's why.
There you go. I was going to ask.
that was one of mine. So hence the weird changes, right?
Did you have to drag them on board with that,
Not at
were
all.
they
They loved it. You know,
okay?
that song, I have my own like instrumental group, and I put out 4
Right.
studio records under my own name. And
Yeah.
Gorilla is a song called Gorilla. A couple albums ago, I had the song Gorilla. And I played it whenever we played it live on my solo shows. It just gets this great reaction. People love it. And so I thought in the back of my mind, this maybe someday this would be a good Spin Doctor song. And I actually brought it in about 8 years ago when me and Chris got together for a writing session. And it was like we were talking about before, the vibe wasn't there. And it just died, but nothing happened to it. And then when we started writing again for this record, I brought it back and everybody loved it, you know, and we finished
cool.
it. We added another section to it. And it's probably out of all the new songs, it's the one that really just crushes live. People really react to it. So it's been like a real success adding to our live show, you know, in the modern era.
With that, and along with the ethos of the Spin Doctors doing a lot of jamming and extended versions, is that one of those songs that gets that treatment?
Actually, no. That song we
Oh,
play,
really? It's more structured.
The arrangement is just exactly like the record, and it just kills.
Cool.
There's been a few times we've extended that section on the end, but for the most part, we almost always just play that. It's just one of those songs. It's like a 4-minute just hard rocker, and it never fails to go over great. You know, and it's so much fun to play. It's really great.
Well, in listening to the album and reading through it, I literally laughed out loud when I read the title. I liked you better when your butt was big. Yeah. I mean, that's just, and I have to give a shout out to my wife, who I will always love better because to fill in the blank, you know. And her mom told her that's never going anywhere. So just get used to it. So like that song's for my wife right there.
Well,
but I still like it.
Have you played it for her yet?
No, I haven't. In fact, she overheard me and she's standing right outside my office door right now, waving her.
Jesus.
So I have to play it. Great song. But I mean, you have the kind of vibe with your music that even the sad and somewhat angry songs sound fun. You know, it's party music.
Yeah,
it's really great. So congratulations on this new album and the tour. Looking forward to catching up with you guys in Phoenix, Scottsdale, or Vegas. Let's go back, like way back. I know you also play keyboards. What instrument came first in your life? What did you start?
Really, it's funny that people sometimes I'll look on some interview article. It'll say Aaron Comas drums and keyboards. It says that somewhere. I played some keyboards on like some of our records, just a little bit, but I wouldn't really consider myself a keyboard player. I play a little piano. The other instrument I play is the guitar. I mean, I write, like I compose music on the guitar. So that's really my other instrument. But I did start playing when I was 5. I took classical piano lessons. So piano was my first instrument. And then when I was 9, I decided I wanted to play drums. I asked my parents to get me drum lessons, and they got me drum lessons. And I've been doing it ever since. That's
great. Who were some of your first influences?
Oh man, so many. You know, I mean, I grew up when I was a little kid. I was really into Kiss. I still love Kiss, actually. And so Peter Criss, you know, when I think about it, Peter Criss was one of the first drummers I sort of really listened to and was like, oh, that's cool, you know. But then I quickly went on to like John Bonham, you know. Bonham was probably my favorite, you know. It was still to this day, really. But going like early on, you know, big influence. And then of course I moved on like everybody at that time to Neil Peart, because when I was in junior high school, you know, Rush was huge. So I was doing the same thing everybody else was doing, playing along to YYZ and 2112, all that. And then I discovered like fusion. So I got into Mahavishnu and I got into Return to Forever, and I discovered Steve Gadd and all those guys. So Gadd's a massive influence. And then I started to discover straight ahead jazz like John Coltrane and Miles Davis and that kind of stuff. So Tony Williams, Elvin Jones, Roy Haynes, Max Roach, on and on. And then I got into like soul and R&B, and you know, so Bernard Purdy, Al Jackson, you know, those kind of guys. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I'm very well-rounded. I love all kinds of music, and I always really, from a young age, wanted to be able to play a lot of different kinds of styles. I wanted to be a well-rounded musician, and really mostly because I just like a lot of music, you know, and I want, you know, and so, you know, that's that. And I've just taken it real seriously from a young age. I knew I wanted to be a professional musician. since I was like 12. And I knew, not a rock star, but a professional musician. I
Yeah.
knew I could be prepared to do that. So I feel really lucky that I've known what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do since I was really young. And so I set out, I had a bunch of goals and I set out to achieve them, which led me to New York City.
Oh, that's awesome. And I've noticed it's hard not to that you've stuck with traditional grip
Hmm.
regardless of the style of music.
Yeah.
And, like some other greats that have stuck with traditional grip. You mentioned Steve Gadd, of course, Todd Zuckerman of
Yeah.
Styx,
Hmm.
Steve Smith, of course, of Journey and his own bands, great jazz player. It always astounds me how people like you and Todd in particular can hit so hard playing traditional grip, yet keep the stick in your hand without the impact of it hitting the drum, making it do
Yeah.
that. I've always kind of marveled at that. Is it just that that's how you learn? That's what's more comfortable. That's where your dexterity comes from.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the very first lesson I ever had, couldn't have been luckier. My parents signed me up for lessons at the local Brook Mays in Dallas, Texas, where I was growing up. A guy named Jack Iden, and my very first lesson, he said, "Hold the right hand like a hammer," and then he showed me the left hand, and it was like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
I stuck with it, and that's it. And I love it. I think it's cool. A lot of my favorite drummers play that way, and
yeah.
you know, but to answer your question, I mean, look at Stuart Copeland. I mean, he's another guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're
I
right.
just
Yeah.
I have much more strength just because I've been playing that way. I do go match grip sometimes, but it's never for power. It's only for like sometimes certain types of grooves or certain sounds I can get. It just
Hmm.
feels different to do that. So I will switch over, for certain things, or sometimes if I'm playing real quiet for certain things. But my
Mm,
technique and my power is traditional.
interesting.
I mean, I don't think about it.
Do you have any more contemporary drummers that you admire?
I mean, there's so many great drummers. I
Yeah.
mean, I love like a lot of my friends, like Mark Juliana is an amazing
Yeah.
drummer. Josh Dion. Sean Pelton's a great friend of mine. Zach Danziger.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's just so many great guys. I mean, I think it's inspiring. I mean, I see all these great guys that came before me who have been such a huge influence, like a lot of the ones we named, and then all my friends, all the people of my generation, and then all these great young drummers that I see, a generation and now 2 or 3 generations below. I mean,
Right.
some phenomenal talent out there. So I'm lucky because I'm right in the middle. I get to be, I get to learn from everybody now.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's awesome how many talented players there are of so many instruments. Now, people know you for the most part. Most people know you from Spin Doctors, what the Spin Doctors do. Of course, a great amount of people know you from your solo stuff. What is some music that you enjoy that might surprise people? Be like, are you a clogging dark death emo banjo listener, or like is there some genre of music that might surprise people being that they know you
Probably
from
not. I mean,
fill in the
like
blank?
I was saying before, I mean, I'm really just open minded. I like all kinds of music. I mean,
Yeah,
there's nothing I really don't like unless it's just no good. I mean,
yeah.
I love classical. I love all kinds of jazz. I love country, soul, R&B, hip hop, hard rock. I mean, if it's good. I mean, and I'm a real song guy. I like a good song. I mean, I definitely gravitate towards good melodies and good lyrics and good, interesting musical, music. But I also love avant-garde. I love like crazy
Mhm.
weird stuff too. I mean, like I just think everything has its place. And
Absolutely.
there's this great guy on the internet. He plays these. I don't know if you've seen him. I forget his name. He's an Asian guy. He tours around the world. He does these snare drum solos, and it's total art. He like it's like experimental art. He takes the drum and he throws it around the room and he does all
Oh
this
yeah,
stuff. And people are freaking out. And every now and then I'll post a thing or put it in the stories, and I get like a million. Everybody laughs. I think they think
yeah,
I'm like making fun of them, but I'm a fan of this guy. I'm
yeah.
not trying to make fun of the guy, but that's
I
what I
know who
mean.
you
Like,
mean. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
and whatever. I mean, and I get it. I can see why somebody might laugh at that, but to me, it's art, and it's like I just don't judge people. I like to be like, I've tried to be like this since I was a kid, you know, and I think a lot of times the musicians in particular make the mistake of being overly judgmental,
Yeah.
you know, talking shit about other people. Usually it's
in a
jealousy.
box, right?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, it's okay to decide you don't like something, you know, but I mean, you got to like figure out what it is you like, and I just think it's good to be open-minded, you know. I really do.
Totally. And just because someone doesn't like something doesn't mean it sucks. Like that's
Well,
just the most ridiculous mindset.
Yeah, so that's why, like, why say something bad about it? Musicians are really bad like that. Musicians are, I think it's, you know, I guess, you know, it's, I don't understand that, like, talking shit about people things.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It's annoying. Knock it off, folks. A couple interesting stepping stones in the career of the Spin Doctors I truly admire, and that is your very first EP was live, and then some of that stuff got incorporated, some of it didn't. You've got songs that are known for only being playing live and not necessarily on albums, but then you were also on Saturday Night Live, and you were also on Sesame Street. Like, it's such an interesting pedigree, all these different stepping stones that are not exactly in a row. You know, they're like, you know, I don't know who plans that out. Like, well, the very first thing we're going to release a live EP, like, who does that? And then we'll eventually we'll go to Saturday Night Live, and then Sesame Street should follow. Like, it's so greatly organic. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that, look, as far as the TV shows, you get offered to do those shows, you do them. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, you know, obviously Saturday Night Live, great, and Sesame Street, sure, of course. As far as the putting out the live EP first, basically when we signed with Epic Records, they wanted to put out an EP, but the idea was to do a studio EP. So we actually went in the studio. The first session we did was at the Power Station in New York City, and we recorded like 5 or 6 songs. That was going to be our EP. One of those songs was Two Princes, that version. Yeah. And so we had that, and then we decided. I think it was a kind of a mutual decision between the band and the record company. It was like, you know what, we're already starting to get a name as a live band. It was such a big part of, really, it was the whole thing we were doing. We were known for being a live act. So it was like, let's record a show and let's make that the first thing we put out. Rather than put out this studio EP, let's put out a live EP, and then we'll use the stuff we did and we'll do another session, and that'll be the full-length studio record after we release the EP. So it actually made a lot of sense. And we brought a truck into the Wetlands, which was a classic New York City venue at the time. Right. We recorded that. We recorded a gig, and we put out that EP. And then we, you know, went back in the studio, did the second half of the record, and put out Pocket Full of Kryptonite.
Interesting. What is the story of how you grabbed the record company? What was that story, and how relevant is that as a template or not, given how today's industry works for musicians chasing that dream?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that the template, I think, is that it's important to do things your own way, for one, you know, stand up for yourself. Like we always did. You know, the good news was, well, the good news and the bad news is when the record company signed us, Epic Records, they didn't really give a shit about us, honestly. Like we were on the bottom of the list. We were just sort of like a tax write-off, I think, you know, honestly.
Oh, geez.
I mean, really, we didn't get any attention from them. But we were a really hard-working machine. We were touring. We were self-sufficient. We didn't need their money. We were making money on the road. We had a strong fan base. So we went out. We put out the EP, whatever. Then finally Kryptonite came out, and we got nothing from the record company. We got a little bit of tour support. That quickly went away. We toured. About a year later, touring in our little van, we had sold about 60,000 records, which in today's world, that's a lot of records.
And when, for time context for people, this is like 82, 84?
No, this is like 92.
Okay, so farther on. Okay.
Yeah, it's the 90s, early 90s. Okay. That record came out late 91. So flash forward to about 92, a year in, the record sold 60,000, which is considered a flop. The record company said, come off the road. The record's done. Make a new record. There's no hits on this record. So we basically made the decision with our manager to not come back off the road, to go back on the road, because we believed that there was a spark was happening. And really our manager, David Sonnenberg at the time, was the guy that was like, look, I really believe something's going to happen. I've seen this before with other acts. Fuck the record company. They don't know what they're talking about. go back on the road. Something's going to happen. I just can feel it. So we're like, okay, let's do it. We went back on the road, and sure enough, a station in Vermont, WEQX, picked up Little Miss on their own, and it became a hit on the station. And then this guy wrote a letter to the president of Epic Records, Richard Griffith, saying, this song, it went to number one. It's blowing up. You guys would be nuts not to promote this band. This record should be gold at least. And that was it. And then they released Little Miss to rock radio. We did a video. MTV picked it up, and then the whole thing just blew up. Yeah. And and so, but the thing is, had we listened to the record company, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it right now.
Yeah.
We've always been real self-sufficient, and we've always done things the way we wanted to do them. We didn't take any pressure in making the record to make it sound how they wanted it to be done. We were like, this is us. I had to fight for my snare drum on Two Princes. I've told this story many times, but the producer wanted me to use a big, deep drum and gated reverb, like that late 80s sound.
Really?
And we're like, we're not into that. It's the 90s now, buddy. We're trying to create our own thing,
Right.
But we fought for it, and look what happened.
Yeah.
So my advice, you asked about the new generation, and first of all, the music industry is so much different now. It's hard to sort of compare it, but the one thing that's the same is that you should always stick to what you want to do. Be yourself, whether you're just yourself on your instrument or whether you're part of a band. Create your own sound. Don't try to follow the trends. Don't listen to anybody's advice necessarily, unless listen to good advice. I'm giving you good advice, but don't listen to somebody that's pressuring you to sound like something they think is going to do well, because that's usually not the way it works.
Right. Because it's been done, for one thing.
Yeah, exactly. You think about when our record came out, that whole period in the early 90s where the grunge thing was happening and bands like us, all of a sudden rock was all over the radio again. Yeah. And looking back on it now, it's great to see kids look back at that era, kind of like the way we looked at the 60s, because something fresh was happening, something new happened. It hadn't happened in a while.
And you mentioned, just like the 60s, that period that you're talking about for you guys, there's a whole fashion movement that went along with it. So when you see these younger people out in your audiences, do you see them representing in that way too? Has the fashion sort of seeped back in a little bit? They say everything is cyclical.
Maybe. I don't really. I don't know. It seems like everybody still just wears t-shirts and flannel anyway. So I don't. Maybe it has come back. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But it's great to see. I think about when I was a kid. In the 80s, growing up in high school. I didn't really like the music of the 80s at the time. I was into more the 70s and late 60s stuff.
Same. I was so stuck there where the 80s stuff was just, it was either hair metal and spandex or skinny tie and short hair.
Exactly. I didn't like any of that. But now I got to be honest, I hear that and I really like it now. I love the music. It's very colorful and I really love that now. But when I was 15, I didn't want anything to do with it.
Let's look at some comments and then we'll continue. We'll geek out on gear a little bit. Mark Waller's watching from Miami, Florida. I've heard of it.
Oh, love it.
Tim Williamson, Jump Talk TV. Hey, guys, from Bealeton, Virginia. And Kelly J. Seeger says, absolutely loved your work back in the day. Thank you. Oh, I think she means you, Aaron, or he. I'm not sure because I can't see the little icon. Absolutely loved your work back in the day. Such subtlety and sense of style, technique to boot. Nice work. Absolutely.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah. And based on, the whole sound and your style and everything, let's do geek out on gear a little bit. What do you use now? And do you use the same thing in the studio as you do live? And how much of it, if any, has changed over the years through the career of Spin Doctors, but also the other stuff you've done on your own? Is it different?
Yeah. I think definitely my setup has changed a lot. My sound has changed. I'm endorsed with Yamaha. I've been with them for quite a while. Yeah. I love this stuff. So my main kit is like a Yamaha recording series kit. I've moved on to a 13-inch tom, and I use a small kit, 13 tom, 16 rack. I used to use a 12. I've gone to 13, 22 bass drum, different snare drums. Back in the day, I had a bigger kit, And I used like on those records, I used Brady drums, which are incredible drums.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a lot of their drums. I still use their snare drums in particular a lot. And back then I had like, 10, 12, 14, 16, I think, something like that. And so over the years it's changed, but in the studio, it really just depends. I mean, because, I work in a lot of different studios. So a lot of times I'll use the stuff. Most studios have tons of drums there. So a lot of times I'll sort of mix and match whatever's there. And I'm definitely one of those musicians that doesn't, like, some guys have their setup and they bring their setup to whatever session they're doing and they use that and that's it. And that's cool. I have my stuff. And if I bring my stuff, I have sort of my setup, but I tend to, depending on the session and the group and the song, I'll adapt my rig to that. I might decide to use, whatever it is, different types of sounding drums and stuff. For I'm sort of a song by song guy.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. What heads do you use live?
Live, I use, well, with my Yamahas live, I've gone back to pinstripes recently, which I use.
Oh,
nice. I just think with the Yamaha recording series, they just sound great. They're super easy to deal with. Soundmen love them. They sound huge. So on my 13, 16, I use pinstripes. I got a Power Stroke on my bass drum, and I use a Remo coated Ambassador on the snare.
Cool. Nice. Let's talk about the tour. Tell everybody, and what's the scope of the tour and when does it run?
Well, we're playing all the time, and so we have a lot of our own shows, just Spin Doctor shows, but we're doing a big tour this summer for like 3 months with our old friends Blues Traveler and Gin Blossoms, who we have a lot of history with both those bands.
Yeah.
The three of us are going out and we're going all over the country. We're starting in July and we're going through like mid-September with a one little break in the middle.
Great. Is there a destination that you see on the itinerary that you're always most excited about going for whatever reason, whether it's that's where family is or that's where the food is or the coffee or whatever?
I definitely loved going down like south. I love the barbecue and I love the Mexican food. I love Mexican. So once you get to like Texas and move across New Mexico, Arizona, and California, that's great. Yeah, but I think as far as venues, Red Rocks is the one that I always really look forward to. Yeah, in Colorado. We're starting there. That's the first date of the tour. So we'll start at the top, but
yeah, what a way to kick it off.
What a beautiful place,
Yeah. Might we get a live DVD from this tour?
You never know. I don't know. Maybe, probably not. But who knows? I mean, we record a lot of our shows. We let people tape our shows. So there's always like a lot of bootlegs flying around and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
I mean, it's funny too. It's like the days of like the live DVD. Does anybody even have a DVD player anymore? I mean, that's kind of
yeah. I use DVD, I guess, generically for film or video.
These days, just go on YouTube. They're all up. It's like everything's just a shit show now. I mean, yeah, you can see us. Just go on YouTube. I'm sure it'll be up.
Absolutely. And by the way, I not only have a DVD player, but I also have a VHS player still.
Wow, that's old school.
Yeah. You have to wind up this rubber band thing and put some 2-in-1 oil in it. Yeah, but it works.
I love it.
That's great. What a great build that is, the three of you guys.
Totally. We're psyched. And like I said, I mean, we came up in New York City with Blues Travelers. So those guys, that's going way back to our roots. And then in the 90s, sort of at the peak of our commercial success, we did a package tour with Gin Blossoms as well. So like, it's just, it's very, there's a lot of nostalgia. So I think people dig that, but all three bands are going at it hard and sounding great. So I think it's going to be a really fun show to see. I think people will like it. There'll be a lot of jamming in between the three of us, and between all three bands, there's tons of hits. So and nobody's going to play too long. I don't think anybody's playing like over an hour or something. You're not going to get bored with. You come out, you see all three bands, you get a good show, and you go home.
Yeah. Well, let's give everyone a little taste of that. We got some clips here. I'm just going to bounce around through them. Let's start with this one. It's simply titled, I don't know how we came up with this name, Video by Aaron Comas. We got a nice mix of stuff here. Here's Aaron tracking. And one of my favorite types of videos, drum cam video. Love that. I love how pulled back that is. It's so groovy. Yeah. This one is video by Acomas 3. Just loved everybody totally feeling it on the retard there and not missing a thing. And we got to see the grip switch from traditional match grip on that one. And the whole time I'm going, will someone please move the farking music stand?
Yeah, right.
The left hand.
That's cool. Those were all very recent too. That last one was just like last week.
Really?
2 weeks ago. And that other one, the drum cam, was about 2 weeks ago. So very recent stuff.
Cool. Here's
two more videos. Thank you. That's cool.
Yeah, here's a couple more. Album release show. Check this one out, folks. you can't not move to that music. I just love it. It's great. One more video, then I have 2 more questions for Aaron. And folks, chime in if you'd like in the comments. We're keeping an eye on them. We get the Bonzo triplets in there.
Yeah, man.
See, my wife heard that one and she came, she's dancing outside my office door to your drum solo.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Do you have another solo album percolating in you? I know the focus right now is on this new album with Spin Doctors, the tour, but is there something going on in the mental petri dish?
I got some stuff in my head. I mean, I'm definitely due for one. I'd like to make one, you know, so, but I really just need to get a full album's worth of material together and then go do it. But I think
just do a live EP.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I mean, honestly, though, the way the band is developed live is so good. You know, I'd love to sort of take that chemistry that we do live and bring it into the studio sometimes. So I'm working on it. I'd say in the next year or 2 we'll get another one out. I'm due.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. Now, for the last question, this is the Aaron Comas fun fact question. In the slivers of time you have away from recording, producing, writing, rehearsing, thinking about music, touring, when you're totally away from music, what do you like to do? Give us a peek behind your personal curtain, if you don't mind.
Well, like on a day off, if I'm totally free and I got nothing musically happening, I love to cook.
Oh, nice.
I'm a big foodie, so I love to like sort of do it European style. I like to go to the the market and see what looks good that day and pick out something nice and prep it all, get it all ready, and then like cook a nice dinner. That's sort of my hobby.
That's great. Same. It's so therapeutic, isn't it?
I love it. I love the whole thing from the shopping to the prepping to the cooking and to eating, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Aaron, where can people find you?
Right here.
Yeah, right on Drum Talk TV.
Cyberspace. Well, you can find me on the road playing gigs. You can find me on Instagram. What am I? Comas, I guess. Aaron Comas.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram. And those are the best places to see me if you want to. If you don't want to come actually say hello in person, then I guess in cyberspace, Instagram and Facebook.
And tons of videos, like you said, on YouTube, which is handy.
Yeah.
And very cool. Again, I want to thank you for taking time to join us and do more of a deep dive than we had 9 years ago when Simon interviewed you at the East Coast Bonzo Bash. This was a lot of fun. We appreciate your insight. And most importantly, thanks for all the great music over the years.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for doing what you do. Say hi to Simon as well.
I will.
And thanks for taking the time to interview me.
You're welcome. Hang on the line just for a moment after we say goodbye to the audience. And audience, thank you so much for joining Aaron Comas and myself, Dan Schneider, here on Drum Talk TV. Thanks for following what we do. And we will see you again soon with more fun stuff. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.